What's up, guys? Faruqi Brothers here, back with another video. And today for you guys, we're going to be talking about next-gen launch. This week, the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5 have released, and let's talk about it. Let's talk about what we're excited for this gen, what we're excited for in terms of the games, in terms of the exclusives, in terms of the graphics, in terms of performance. We're going to look at all of it, give our thoughts and opinions, and explain if it's even worth buying this or not. So let's get right into it, and I'll start with Zion. Because we're a PlayStation family. Let's call it what it is. The four of us, we've been on the PlayStation wave for at least 3 to 4 generations, depending who. At least for me and Zayan, it's been since the PlayStation 1. I think for Umar and Samir, it was PS2 or PS3. Not sure exactly, but but
it was PS1.
with the
What are you talking about? Yeah,
it was PS1. Okay, so yeah, I was thinking, like, would you guys start at PS2? Like, Samir's like a little kid, but I was thinking that with.
I think we both skipped PS2.
So you guys skipped PS2, but
we had PS1.
Right.
That's not PS1.
Got it. So we got PS1, then PS3, PS4, and now we're at PS5, right? So we're going to primarily focus this video on the PlayStation 5, but of course, both consoles of next gen are very similar in terms of performance, in terms of graphics, and they're going to have a very similar pacing throughout. It's really a difference between exclusives and kind of which family of system that you're more accustomed to. So the PlayStation 5, which is out today, this morning, obviously, if you haven't pre-ordered it, it's going to be kind of hard to get it this week, but if you're interested, I'm sure it's going to be available to you in the near future. But there's a lot going with this. There's a lot going for it. There's a lot going for the games that are coming out. So for you, Zion, my question is, like, what are you most excited for when it comes to the PlayStation 5? Like, when you look at the system, what is the capability of this when you're looking even 5 years from now?
Well, I think like with all console generations, I think the next step is just see how high they can go, how far they can go. I know a lot of the current games, aside from maybe NBA 2K, which they create 2 separate games, things like Assassin's Creed, things like Watch Dogs, Cyberpunk, you're not going to get the full capabilities because they're creating them on both the last generation and now the new current generation, which is PS5 and Xbox Series X. And so I think going down, we're going to get just a taste of how much capabilities this console has, and as we keep going forward, we're gonna have even more crazier games. I know the loading time is like the biggest selling point because you saw games like Spider-Man where they show that it's almost instantaneous, how you can just jump into action and no more long loading times or loading screens, which is a huge plus. It can get pretty annoying in some games, especially games like 2K. I know whoever plays it knows they're like egregious with their loading time. So hopefully in 2K21 for PS5, they'll be much better. And just in general, just thanks to the hardware, there's just so much more they can do, so much more infrastructure they can work with and play with. So the games will only be bigger and better from here on going forward. And I think at least maybe a year from now, we'll start getting more of the pure next-gen games, which will really show off what they can do.
And the thing about, we're talking about games, I think one of the things we should talk about also is the controller itself. I think that's probably the biggest selling point of the PlayStation 5 is the controller. It's absolutely wild with the haptic feedback and what they're going with it. Like, you're going to actually feel tension when you pull down on the trigger, and whether you're playing, especially a racing game or a sports game or a shooter game, these are the games that you're going to definitely feel that feedback, and it's going to feel really lifelike when you're playing. So I think that's one of the cool parts about the PlayStation 5 specifically is how much upgraded the controller is. But let's go into the games, and that's what I'm going to talk to Umar about. Like, I mean, Umar and I, for the last, 10 years, we've had a rivalry on 2K. That's been our thing. Like, every year we're going to go back and forth. Some years I'm much better. Some years Umar's better. These days Umar thinks he's much better, but remains to be seen. But with 2K21, I mean, some of the controversy aside, because 2K, they try to, sometimes they're a little money hungry with the VC and all that, but in terms of the quality of 2K, in terms of what we're seeing out of next gen, like, what do you think about this franchise for the PlayStation 5? Like, do you think it's going in a much better direction? And in general, what are your most anticipated games?
I think obviously it's getting better. It's just I think the jump from the PS3 to the PS4 2K was a lot bigger, so it looks it doesn't feel the same as it was when we had the console switch before. So I think that's one thing that like 2K. I mean, they tried what they can. I think like Jan said, I think next year is when we'll probably see more of like they'll show off like what they can do. I think for this year, 2K is all right. It's cool. It's cool. As for me and you already know I'm better than you. Like, let's not play games on that.
You gotta see about that.
Recently, I'm ahead of the game. You know what I'm saying?
But it's like the student becomes the master kind of thing because let's call it what it is. Like, yeah. I had your number for at least. I had your numbers from at least 2K6 to 2K12, and then maybe after 2K12, it's a bit more competitive. But from what I remember, last year's my team, I was beating you. But I digress. Let's move on to Samir, and let's talk about.
I didn't answer the second question though.
No, you don't have to answer. I go answer.
Hogwarts Legacy is my most anticipated game. I think they're gonna do some crazy with that.
Yeah.
I'm excited for something because I always wanted a free roam Hogwarts game with like everything. You make your own wizard and all that stuff. So I think that's my most anticipated, and I think because it's not coming out this year, it's gonna be out next year. I think that's a game where I think they can really show off like what they're about with this one. So
awesome.
Yeah.
And then Samir, for you, we're moving on to games, and we're moving on to games that you're most interested in or not. And I think for you, I mean, we look at all the titles. You have Spider-Man, Miles Morales. You have Cyberpunk. You have Assassin's Creed. You have a lot of big AAA titles. You also have indie titles. For you, what is the most anticipated kind of launch game for PS5?
I mean, we are ComicBook Debate, so I'd have to go with Miles Morales. We all played Spider-Man. I know Umar didn't finish it because he's kind of garbage, but Miles Morales looks really good. I think it looks better than the first Spider-Man game. And Cyberpunk, I don't know what's with them and they're delaying the game, but I'm also anticipating that game. Umar, do you think you're gonna finish Miles Morales this time?
I mean, they say it's an 8-hour game. I mean, if you can't finish 8-hour game, I know Ghost of Tsushima got 5 minutes in, quit. Spider-Man got 5 minutes in, quit. I mean, the only thing you can finish is a 2K game.
even that I don't finish sometimes. But we'll see. I guess I'm not gonna give a serious answer, but yeah, just move on. Someone's got stuff to do. You know what I'm saying? I'm not playing games. I'm not like Shraz sitting there playing games for like 30 hours
Because you can't afford.
Either way, next gen is gonna bring a lot of stuff to the table, and I think it's one of those situations where obviously this happens every 7 years. You get a new console launch, and then you make a decision based on what games are coming out, what the hardware is looking like, and by and large, I think the biggest thing about this year is less graphics and more performance. So as you're seeing, like you're going 60 frames per second on everything. You got ray tracing, you got load times absolutely zero now with how fast the SSD moves on the PS5. So we're only scratching the surface. I mean, PlayStation said that actually the PS5 is capable of going 8K, but they just haven't unlocked that part yet. So when technology reaches up to PlayStation, they're going to start unlocking those features. That's the cool thing when you're making a system, because they're charting years in advance. Like, they're ready for 8K right now, but when we start getting to that point as a standard in this industry, then they're going to start unlocking those games. I mean, just look at games that came out in the beginning of the PS4 life cycle and then the end of the PS4 life cycle, and look how much of a change there was. Like beginning of launch cycle PS4, you had I can't even think of a name, but you had, like, let's say Assassin's Creed Black Flag, and now end of life cycle, you had Ghost of Tsushima. I mean, the difference between those two games graphic-wise is insane. So we're at the beginning of PlayStation 5, and it's going to go much more crazier as we go along. But the question is, which next-gen console will you be getting? Let us know in the comments below of which game you're most excited for, and join the debate. From myself, from Zayan, from Umar, and from Samir, we're the Faruqi brothers, and we'll see you next time. Peace out.